Good afternoon, Billy.
Hey, Cecilia, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm so happy to have you join me again. I'm really looking forward to jumping into talking about VA loans,
VA
another
loans.
hero group that's dear to my heart.
That's right.
And, there's a lot of information out there. So I'm hoping that we can roll out all the great facts about VA home loans to those that qualify for it.
Yeah, absolutely. It is 100% the best loan product that any mortgage banker or lender has to offer. I mean, as it should be, right? I mean, think about it. We're providing a financing service to our nation's veterans, people who give of themselves so frequently and so much and so often that why shouldn't they be able to take advantage of, being repaid for their sacrifices and their services, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so let's jump right in. Cecilia, once again, I'm Billy Saunders. I'm a mortgage loan officer with Caliber Home Loans, and tell you a little bit about myself and my personal story as it applies to VA mortgages in particular. As we all know, I've been doing this for over 20 years. Recognized as a top originator nationwide, also recognized just recently as a top mortgage professional for 2022 by Washingtonian Magazine. Really
That
happy
is
about
so
that.
awesome.
Yep, thank you so much. I am also a certified military and veteran housing specialist. I've been a member of the VA Real Estate Professionals Group for a couple of years. I just recently stepped away from that. But one of the other things I really want to talk about is not a lot of people know this, but prior to my mortgage banking career, I actually worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs. So that's something that not many people know about. I worked at the VA Central Office in Washington, D.C. I worked at the VA Medical Center over on over in also in Washington, D.C. And again, that's a lot of pride that I have and a lot of personal connection with our United States military service members. Even more kind of prevalent here in this slide is these are just some of my family members. These are my military family members who I'm really proud of. Top right-hand corner, that handsome guy up there, that's my dad. He served in the United States Navy. He was in Korea. He was in Korean War on a destroyer. Actually saw some combat while he was there. Top left-hand corner, that's my brother Al. Multiple deployments and action and military action in overseas in Afghanistan and Iraq. Top center is my nephew, Christopher, who also served in the United States Army as a military police officer. Bottom left and bottom center, that's my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, both United States Air Force veterans. And bottom right-hand corner is my nephew, Derek, who is my brother Al's son, who is still active duty, just recent graduate of the Naval Academy, and he's currently serving somewhere out in the European region on a carrier, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, very very important to me. And as I mentioned, I worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and during my time at the VA, I was actually recognized on Veterans Day at the White House by then active and sitting President Bill Clinton. And here's a picture of me, which I think it's kind of funny because I don't know that really looks like me, but yep, that's me.
That's because you had hair back then.
I had a lot of hair back then. You're right. So, but yeah, that's me right there shaking hands with President Clinton, and that beautiful woman in front of me, that's my mom. She also worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs for over 30 years, and her boss is the gentleman that she's shaking hands with, and that's former Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs, Jesse Brown, who I know very well personally. I think he passed away a couple of years ago. I was sad to hear that, but yeah, really, really great person and great experience for me in my life. So let's talk about you, Cecilia. I know you've got some real connections with not just the Homes for Heroes group, but you've got some real special people in your group, in your family as well. Tell me about them. Tell us about them, would you please?
Sure. So the gentleman in the picture is my grandfather. He was with the Army Air Corps for World War II. He flew the bomber planes during World War II, so he saw action. And currently, I have my daughter in the United States Air Force, and she is serving out of Dover. She just finished her first deployment overseas, and so I'm very proud of her. And, I've had many other family members do service. We have actually every service there is, Marines, Navy, Army, and Air Force in the family, but these two are dear
Don't
and
forget about
near.
the Coast Guard.
We don't have a Coast Guard. You're right, but we do not have a Coast Guard, so
Yeah, well,
we're missing one.
I can tell you right now, looking at that photo of your grandfather and knowing that he flew on bomber missions during World War II, I've seen some very well put together movies, and I can't think of a scarier place to be than in a bomber on a bombing run and being, just kind of hit with all that anti-aircraft weaponry that was, that they were just barraged by. I mean, talk about a scary, scary thing for a young person to have to endure in their early life. I mean, what a terrible thing. But now on the flip side, your daughter looks like she's having a lot of fun. Now I'm sure every day in the Air Force isn't fun, but in that moment of that photo, I really love it because I think it captures her personality, and I think that's pretty neat that she has that. That's a great photo. I'm sure you're quite proud of her.
I am. And what's funny about that is both of them are in their 20s in these pictures. I mean,
Right.
it's hard to believe, at that time, my grandfather was like 26 years old doing that. And
Right.
Savannah's in her early 20s, but it just goes to show the difference in the generations.
Yeah, no, 100%. They say that World War II era generation, that's the greatest generation as it's been coined by many people in regards to American history. So, and it makes sense why. The reason for that, you can see what they endured and what they went through and the sacrifices they made in order to make us the country that we are today. So Cecelia, tell me real quick, you and I talked about this a little bit offline, and you shared with me a little bit about what the Air Force Sergeants Association is. I want you to tell everybody who's tuned in today what is the U.S. Air Force Sergeants Association and why it's important to you as a Homes for Hero affiliate.
So this is another partnership that has recognized the value that we as realtors, lenders, title companies are bringing to our heroes, in particular our military members. And so the Air Force Sergeants Association right here out of Andrews locally has agreed that this is a great partnership and they are looking forward to doing more with us. And so I'm very excited about that. It just kind of gives that seal of approval from the Air Force itself that says, hey, we recognize that you guys are really bringing value to our military members, and we want to be a part of that officially. So
yeah, that's fantastic.
exciting.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely fantastic. And to get any type of kind of endorsement from a group as prestigious as the Air Force Sergeants Association, that says a lot and speaks volumes as to our partnership with Homes for Heroes and what it does for our military veterans and active duty clients who are becoming homeowners. So that's outstanding. So I want to share this next slide. When I was doing some research and kind of preparing for this session, this class that we teach, I ran across this slide and I thought, man, what a great and incredible slide to share, because the quote is really indicative of the mindset. When it comes to our military veterans, we don't know them all, but we certainly owe them all. And I just wanted to kind of bring this into the equation and share that because, like I said, I know it's something that's very important to you. I know it's something that's very important to me. And we want to make sure that we are showing our gratitude and expressing our thanks to those who have served our country and are serving our country. So Caliber Home Loans is ranked nationally as a military-friendly brand. We're a military-friendly lender, a military-friendly company, a military-friendly employer, and a top 10 military-friendly spouse employer. So it's important for us to, kind of take a moment and really, brag about these designations, because when you think about it, especially the one that really hits home for me is the one top 10 spouse employer, because while our servicemen and women are serving abroad in the military service, both home and abroad, there's still other parts of the family that are sacrificing as well. And, we've got to be create a value for them as well. And to be able to have these designations is pretty important to me. And I'm happy and proud to share that with everybody.
Yes, and that's part of the reason why, I'm so happy that we work together in this partnership to bring the value that we do to our military.
Yeah. So speaking of the military and the Department of Veterans Affairs, just a little bit of a history lesson here. Going back per this slide, it shows that, the assistance that our country's provided for military veterans, it goes all the way back to 1636, but it really wasn't until the 1920s that it really became organized. And what took place in 1921 was there was a first consolidation of all the different veterans programs that were out there. Congress combined all of these, and it's particularly after World War I, and they created what was called the Veterans Bureau, which later in 1929 became the Veterans Administration, which later became what we know as today as the Department of Veterans Affairs. And today, the Department of Veterans Affairs, it consolidates all federal assistance and service for military veterans and active duty servicemen and women. And that's a big deal. And just kind of give you an idea what that means is like just the home loan guarantee program. That's such a big deal because what it enabled was it gave an opportunity for our military veterans in World War I and World War II in particular to know that when they came home from service, after all of the atrocities that they witnessed, seen, participated in, they were able to secure some sort of housing for their family by using that benefit of what they gave in their time and the sacrifices to their country. So in between 1944 and December of 1993, the Department of Veterans Affairs has guaranteed over $433 billion in homes for over 13.9 million home loans for service members. How amazing is that, Cecelia?
Well, that's amazing because, another fact about all that is they guarantee it, but VA loans are one of the lowest foreclosed loans that we have in the market.
Yeah, they're one of the higher. And you know what's great about that? Here's the offset to that. One of the measurements that is utilized in our industry that analyzes risk is the amount of down payment, right? So the one thing that's great about a VA loan is that there's no down payment required. So in all other walks of our industry and all other examples, that typically is indicative of a higher foreclosure rate of loans that don't perform at a high level. But our VA loans, they really do. They're very secure. They're very stable loans. And I think part of that is because there's some benefits, and we'll talk about these as we go through these slides, some of the benefits of a VA loan. So here's a couple more highlights here. So again, we talked about a huge benefit, and that is the true 100% financing that's available. So a military veteran, active duty service member, they're able to obtain mortgage financing with no down payment. And we all know that that typically is one of the greater obstacles that a lot of home buyers face when trying to be approved for financing is they have to come up with this down payment. Our military buyers do not. VA loans are 100% financing, no down payment required at all. And then the other thing is what? Tell us about mortgage insurance, Cecelia.
Oh, well, these loans, which is great, they have no mortgage insurance, which, we just saw with FHA. That's a significant thing because FHA has a pretty high mortgage insurance on their loans, and they just reduced it, which is awesome, but still, that it costs a pretty penny to carry that each month.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the mortgage insurance premium, there's no PMI for that for military veterans. Now, when you think about the VA loan program highlights, these are going to cover all different types of properties. We're talking about single family residences, condominiums, manufactured housing, and even new construction. We even have renovation loan products in place, and we'll talk a lot about that as well as we go into this slides. And then, here's a fact that a lot of people don't know. Your VA home loan entitlement, you can use it over and over and over again. So it's not like it's a one-time use and then it's over and done with. You can continue to use your VA entitlement as long as you'd like to, as long as you don't have any defaults on that. So when we talk about who's eligible for a VA loan, it's really military veterans who have served in active duty for 90 days during wartime or 181 continuous days during peacetime. Active servicemen and women in service includes 24 continuous months or more, or a full period of active duty, but not less than 90 days during wartime or 181 days in peacetime. We also have opportunities for military veterans who are reservists and National Guard members. They can be eligible as long as they've completed 6 years as a member of an active unit, received an honorable discharge and or retired, have a service-connected disability, or if they were activated for at least 90 days during the Gulf War era, which is August 1990 to present, that also gives them the ability to qualify for a VA loan. And share with us this one, Cecelia, because I know this one's important to you. What other types of borrowers could be eligible for VA financing?
So this one's great. A widow or widower of a veteran who died while serving or was declared MIA or a POW, they also qualify, which is great. So basically, the VA is passing that along to the widow or widower, which is amazing.
Right. And then any service personnel member who left the military because of a RIF or reduction in force after 20 months of a 2-year enlistment. Now, there is an entire breakdown of the certificate of eligibility and all the nuances that come with that. And there's a lot of information to share. I'm happy to share that information with anybody who might be watching this video and wants to learn more about it. Maybe they want to find out how and if they qualify. So feel free to reach out to Cecelia or I. We can certainly go through that with you. Now, we just talked about surviving spouses, right? A surviving spouse of a veteran who died as a result of a service or service-connected cause, that spouse is going to be eligible for VA loan financing. They get to pass on that eligibility. Also, again, you talked about the POW missing in action for at least 90 days, or a surviving spouse of a veteran who died while in service, or from a service-connected disability who remarries on or after age 57 and on or after December 16th, 2003. So that's a really unique window that we have to address on a case-by-case basis, but that just gives you some additional insights as to how surviving spouses can still carry the benefit forward from their deceased service member that, lost their life while serving the military. So Cecelia, real quick, let's talk about this for a second. Comprehensive range, we at Caliber Home Loans, we offer a comprehensive range of VA loan products, including loan amounts up to the conforming loan limit. Do you know what the conforming loan limit is now for VA loans?
There is none.
There is none, right? I need to update these slides because at the time there was a conforming loan limit, but in the last couple of years, the military the government got rid of it. So there is none now. So if you want to get a $2 million house, and you want to use your VA eligibility, absolutely. Let's go. Let's rock and roll on that. It's great. So they offer 30-year fixed rate mortgages, 5/1 adjustable rate mortgages with VA loans, which is great. Who do you think that would apply to? What kind of veteran might be interested in taking on an adjustable rate mortgage that's only fixed for a short period of time? What do you think?
Well, we have a lot of people that get stationed here and they're only here for a short amount of time. So they don't want to be renters, but they want to get in for the lowest, possible interest rate, get that payment down. So yeah, they would be perfect for stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Those that are here for like 3 years and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, a duty station assignment, what is it typically? Might be a 2-year duty station, might be a 4-year duty station. I do a lot of loans that are for active duty service members that are serving in the DC, Maryland, Virginia community. And they know they're not going to be here for that long. They know they're going to be here for 4 years, maybe 8 years, but they still understand and see the benefit of home ownership. And it's kind of a house hack for a lot of these guys and ladies, right? Because they can buy a house here using their VA eligibility. And then when they get their next duty assignment, they can go use their VA eligibility again, potentially where they're at, and then rent their property they have here. And this gives our service members, our men and women who are serving our country, the ability to accrue wealth through home ownership and become landlords to a degree.
Absolutely. A lot of them are starting to do that more and more.
Yeah, I see it a lot. So we talked about funding fees a few minutes ago. You said, we talked about mortgage insurance and how there's no mortgage insurance premium for VA loans. However, there is a funding fee. And the funding fee is really going to be dependent on the loan product, the loan transaction type, also the down payment. Now, the great thing about the funding fee on the VA loan here recently is that the VA reduced the funding fee quite a bit,
Yes,
as a
they
matter of
did.
fact, right? So
Yeah.
before, if you had a military veteran who was using their VA eligibility and they were using it for their first time, their funding fee could be 3.3% of the sales price or loan amount. So, for example, if they were buying a $300,000 house, their funding fee was $9,900. So that meant that their loan amount was going to typically be $3,900. So that's financed
Right.
the loan. But what's happened recently is, with the federal government making some changes, just as of a few weeks ago, they've reduced the funding fee percentage for all VA loans across the board. And as you see here, if you're a military veteran using your VA loan for the first time and you're taking advantage of that full 100% loan product, or you're not putting down more than 5%, that funding fee just dropped from 3.3 to 2.15. Now, if you're a military veteran and you're in a position where you want to put down some money, 5% down payment reduces your funding fee even more. That's 1.5%. And then if you're using it for a second, third, fourth, fifth time, however, subsequent use, then the funding fee is going to be a little bit higher if you're using the 100%. But if you're putting some money down, you'll see it really does drop back down to that 1.5 or 1.25%. So that's a really nice feature for us to be able to pass on to our veteran buyers right now, is this lower funding fee. Because listen, with interest rates having been going up a little bit lately, they need every break they can get. Homeowners need to be able to take advantage of any reduction in cost or fee that's available to them.
Absolutely.
All right. So Cecelia, you and I chatted a little bit offline about this, right? And I think this is something that not a lot of people in the real estate industry, and for that matter, veterans, the home buying veterans, know about. And right now, this is really important more than ever, because for the last 20 years, going all the way back to Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Afghanistan, Iraq, we've been in a period of time in which there's been, quite honestly, there's been a lot of wounded service members that are coming back home and becoming homeowners. Did you know that we have specific loan programs and products that are made available to our disabled veterans?
Yes, I did. And actually, it's very sad. My neighbor, who is a police officer, but he is in the Army Reserves, he just returned back from a deployment from the Middle East. And he said one of the guys ended up losing his leg while he was over there just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So it still happens.
So when I worked for the VA and I work at the VA hospital, a lot of the patient population that I had day-to-day interaction with, a lot of them were Vietnam era veterans. And one of the Vietnam era veterans who I became friends with while I was there, he was a double amputee, lost both of his arms and lost half of his face, and in a landmine explosion. He was in charge of like finding demolitions and demolition repairs and things like that. And he and I talked about this, and he said that there are more surviving soldiers in this current Desert Storm and on conflicts that we have because of the invention and the technology involved with body armor. So when a soldier in Vietnam was subjected to an explosive device, they were probably killed. They didn't have the body armor to protect their core organs, their heart, their lungs, their stomach. These were the things that the body armor protects them from. So now, from 2000, that 2001 window and beyond, where we're talking about, our Vietnam, not our Vietnam era veterans, but our Desert Storm, our veterans that are coming back from tours of duty in the Middle East. There's a lot more amputees, a lot more double amputees that really need to have special accommodations for them when it applies to the VA mortgage. So what we have is this specially adapted housing grant, and it's called an SAH grant. And what it means is that we can help use financing using their VA benefit to construct a specially adapted home on land to be acquired. They can build a home on land that's already owned, and if it's suitable for specially adapted housing. They can remodel their existing home to make sure that it is suitable for specially adapted housing. And then you can apply this grant against the unpaid principal mortgage balance of a home that's already acquired without the assistance of a VA grant. So, I mean, think about that for a second. I've been in this business for a long time. It wasn't until recently that I learned about this. So to know that I have this ability and this opportunity that I can share this with our veterans that are seeking financing that may have special needs, or have a need to have their home adapted to meet their disability, it's just phenomenal. So I'm really proud to be able to share that information and this type of knowledge with people that may not know otherwise.
No, it's awesome, and it's great to spread the word about all the benefits our military heroes have earned. They deserve this.
Yeah, absolutely. So this next slide, as we kind of wrap up here, if you're a military, if you're a veteran or active duty military service member, you'll probably recognize that there's a tradition in the military that revolves around what's called a challenge coin. And a challenge coin is something that most military members carry in their pockets, in their wallet, they carry it in their purse somewhere. And it's indicative of some point or time in their service. Maybe it's about a certain tour or a detail that they were on. It might have to do with their occupational field in the military. Maybe it's just a coin that represents the service that they're connected to. And this is typically something that, based on my knowledge and my association with the veteran community, it kind of really is played out in a bar setting or a pub, right? You go into a bar, you have a seat, you sit down next to somebody, and you look to them and you say, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" "Oh, yeah," and you find out in conversation that you're both active, you're both military veterans, right? So maybe at that point, one of the two military veterans decides to reach into their pocket and they pull out their challenge coin, and they drop that coin down on the bar. Boom, there it is. They set it on the bar. Now, if you're the challenge dropper and the person who's sitting next to you is not able to present a challenge coin to match your coin, then that means they've got to buy the next round of cold beverages, right? Now, if you're the challenger and you drop that coin on the table, and the person who you're sitting next to does produce that challenge coin and they match it, then that means you, as the challenger, you're on the hook for the next round of beverages. And one of the things that we do at Caliber Home Loans, because we recognize this is such a well-recognized history in with veterans, or I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of, but it's part of their culture. We've created a challenge coin that we send to every military veteran buyer who purchases a home through us and uses Caliber Home Loans as their financing company. We send this into the mail to them after closing. And the response that I receive from my military buyers is they just get a big kick out of it, and they call me and they take pictures of it with their cell phone and they text it to me. And they're like, "Wow, man, I didn't know I was going to get one of these. This is really cool. Thank you so much." Again, it's part of the culture of being in the military. So these challenge coins are a pretty big deal. And, we partner with Ranger Industries, which is a service disabled veteran owned small business. That's who's manufacturing these coins for us. So again, it's just another way that we can give back and support our veteran community by utilizing a disabled veteran owned business to help to produce these for our clients.
Yeah, that's really awesome on y'all's part. I know my daughter has a few of them. So yeah, she's always excited when she collects one.
Yeah, I actually have one. My brother when he was serving in Afghanistan, he sent me a challenge coin. He knows I'm a big Redskin fan, and I guess they were selling them somewhere off base over there it had United States Marine Corps on one side and it had Washington Redskins logo on the other. But it was also on the front side, it had the tour or the place that he was at in Afghanistan. He shared that with me, and I still keep that. It's in my jewelry box. I'll never let it go.
Well, you can't now because
No.
The Redskins don't even exist.
You're right, they don't.
That's history.
I'll have to get a Commander's coin next. All right. So we went over a lot of details about VA financing, but here's just kind of some bullet points to kind of summarize. The benefit of a VA loan, again, the most lucrative part of the loan is that it's a zero down payment loan. There's no down payment requirement. The qualification standards are somewhat easier than securing other types of financing. Because it's federally guaranteed and there's no loan limits, that certainly does create a lot of opportunity for buyers out there who can qualify to buy a higher end home. Again, big deal here. No mortgage insurance is required. That certainly helps to keep monthly payments lower for our VA buyers. The interest rates are highly competitive. Like across the board, if you compare, VA, FHA, USDA, conventional down payment assistance loans, in almost in every scenario, the VA loan is going to have a lower interest rate, and that's a benefit that we'd like to pass on to our veteran buyers. And again, it's backed by the United States government, which certainly makes the loan a lot more appealing for a lot of people. And what we're finding now, Cecelia, is that VA loans are assumable, right?
They are. Yeah.
We've heard a lot about that recently. So that means that if you have a seller who's looking to sell their home and they have a 2.5% or a 3% interest rate, they can pass that lower interest rate on to a prospective buyer. Now, there's some things that they could forego as far as their eligibility to purchase another home. It could cut into that number, but it certainly is an appealing prospect for any potential buyer, and it certainly can make a home more lucrative for a seller as well. To make it easier for them to sell it, they're able to pass on that lower interest rate to a potential buyer.
Absolutely. That's a great benefit.
Yeah. So Cecelia, there's oftentimes a negative stigma about VA loans. I've noticed this more nationally than I have here regionally in our area. Here, the real estate community embraces the opportunity that's provided by a VA loan. But in some parts of the country, there's a little bit of a negative stigma that comes with a VA loan. If a buyer is trying to purchase a seller's home, the listing agents in particular will maybe advise their sellers against accepting a VA offer. And I can never understand why that was the case, but I want you to take a few seconds and just tell us why, but more importantly, debunk that myth that it's not the best loan product for the seller to accept.
It's sad, unfortunately, when something gets a bad reputation, it kind of sticks around for a long time, right? We've seen that.
Right.
And, VA loans kind of gained a little bit of the bad reputation because of the appraisal process. Appraisers, would note so many more requirements for the seller to do things to make the loan approved and pass VA guidelines. And, again, that went along the lines when they had loan limits and stuff like that. Well, all that has pretty much, gone to the wayside. VA loans are, gosh, they're like slicing butter. They're nice and smooth.
Yeah,
and they're great. The appraisals are as competitive as any other type of loan product. The appraisers, are not nitpicking the houses, and no more than what an FHA loan would be, honestly.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
Your buyer is, more qualified, and it's a more guaranteed loan to go to closing. There's usually no surprises with my VA loans.
Agreed. Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. They're actually really easy loans for us to underwrite and process and get approved. I mean, the appraisal process, it takes a little bit longer, but we don't run into that, unless we're trying to close in 10, 12 days, then maybe you run into some issues there. But if you're doing a typical, 20 to 30 day settlement, we don't run into any issues whatsoever. Again, VA loans are always very, very easy loans to process, underwrite, and close. So again, Cecelia and I both agree wholeheartedly on this stance. It's our mission to serve America's veterans and our active military service members. And I know that we do a lot to make sure that we are properly educating our veteran community as far as what their benefits are so that they can take full advantage of not just the benefits of the traditional loan program, but Cecelia, also the Homes for Heroes program. So on average, if you had a military buyer who's purchasing a home, and through the Homes for Heroes program, on top of any type of seller concessions, seller paid assistance, things that we're doing from Caliber Home Loans regarding, to incentivize the VA buyer, what do you think the average check that you're able to give back? Again, this is an average, this isn't for everybody, but at the average check, and it's a lot based on sales price, what's that benefit that you're able to give back in the form of a check to the veteran? What do you think that amount would line up to be?
So right now in our area, that amount is averaging about $3,000 back to my buyers or sellers, and if you're on both sides, well, then that's equaling out to be $6,000 for 2 transactions. So
Wow.
it's such an amazing program, and I'm so happy to be able to offer that benefit to those that are willing to sacrifice their life. I'm willing
Right.
to sacrifice back in terms of giving back to the community the only way I know how. And so it's really great. And sometimes if you have 100% loan and you're getting all the costs and closing paid for by the seller when you're purchasing that home, sometimes you're getting paid to buy a house when you get that check from me. So
That's incredible. I mean, that when you think about that, you're going to actually make money on your purchase, right? I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to buy this $400,000 house, and I'm not going to have to bring any money to the table. As a matter of fact, Cecelia is going to give me a check.
Yep.
And what do you think there is going to be done with that check? Right? Furnish the house, get that big new flat screen TV for the living room, for the family to enjoy the family room. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal in the way that to think that they can get a check back at closing. So,
or for my last military move this past summer, they told their daughter, they said, depending on how big of a check Cecelia gives us, we'll buy you a pony when we get to Texas. So I officially have a pony that the middle name is after me.
oh, I love that. That's great. So Cecelia, I mean, really, I think we covered a lot of really outstanding, facts about the VA loan, probably closed out a couple of myths that maybe some people might not be well informed about, talked about a few things that hopefully some people didn't know about, that we could educate and teach them something that they can use to their advantage. And obviously, if folks want to get in touch with you, your contact information is right here on the screen. I've left that slide up for a few minutes. And again, if anyone's interested in getting pre-approved and they're looking to find out what they can do with their VA eligibility and how they can apply that to purchasing a home, they can certainly give me a call or go straight to my website and apply at dmvloanofficer.com. So Cecelia, again, it's always a pleasure to have these opportunities to sit with you, talk about these things that we're doing to help people to become homeowners, because after all, we say it all the time, buying a home is the greatest wealth building opportunity that any American citizen can have. And for our VA military veteran citizens, it really is prideful for us to be able to, pass that benefit on and that knowledge on to them.
Yes. And, like I said, again, near and dear to both our hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, until next time, we've got to regroup, come up with a different topic that we can talk about for our next session, and make sure that we're continuing to educate people and encourage home ownership across all aspects.
Yes, and I look forward to it as always.
Yeah, absolutely, Cecelia. And so until next time, I'll see you then.
Bye, Billy.
Bye, Cecelia.